All right. I think now's as good as time as any to get this going. So I appreciate you guys for being here with us. We have Ben Rhodes, driver of the number 99 ThorSport Ford F-150. And Ben's third in the Craftsman Truck standings. And in contention because of his 5 top 10 performances in 7 races. I think that's some really consistent runs. I'm curious to hear your assessment of the season so far, Ben, and maybe what's been working, what you're looking ahead to this weekend, and what's the team goal for Kansas?
Well, there's a lot, I guess, facets to this answer that I'm going to put together. My assessment is rather negative, and I don't mean for it to be that way, but a lot of it comes down to me and finishing the races a little bit stronger. The assessment for the team is positive, though, overwhelmingly positive. I feel like our mile-and-a-half program this year is leaps and bounds better. And whether I attribute that to Ford or to my team itself, I'm with a new crew chief and engineer combo. Some of the simulator stuff we're doing at Ford. I don't know if there's one single entity or person I can peg that on, but I will say as a whole, as a group, as a big team effort, we are a lot better in those aspects. And that was the place that we single-handedly struggled the most last year. So I am very proud of that. However, we've been probably like a third place truck or so at these mile and a halves. And with that, you kind of can get into the hornet's nest if a restart doesn't happen properly. And because of that, we've had a couple of bad finishes. The 5 top 10s out of 7 races. That's okay. I mean, that's a more sunny stat than what I was aware of. I guess maybe my outlook is it's not as positive. The last 2 years at this point, I was leading the points. I wasn't third, so I don't like being third. My eyes are still firmly fixed on the top spot. But I guess our goals going into Kansas right now is we're kind of trying to innovate. The third place speed that we've been at these last couple of mile-and-a-half races, while it's been good and historically that's what you want is top 5 speed. The series has just gotten so competitive, so close that now running third place, you have one bad restart or something happens, doesn't fall the way you want it to, and before you know it, you're outside the top 5. So we're trying to find more speed to kind of tip the table, the cards, whatever you want to say, in our direction. We're working on some things that I had not run and well, I guess in a long time, and then some new innovations with the setup itself. So we're going to see how it fares at Kansas. I'm not going to say I'm nervous to unload, but I am anxious to get there and see how everything we've worked on fares. I don't want to unload and be like, man, I hope we don't. I hope we don't have to race this ever again. I want to unload and basically say, we're in the ballpark. Maybe we can do some small adjustments and make it work. My concern, though, is that maybe we'll unload and we were too aggressive and there's stuff that we can't go back on and practice. The new practice sessions we have now, it's a gamble. Like you can try to make changes, like thinking about the big picture of the setup. You can try a sway bar, you can try different things, you can do springs and whatnot. But once you unload, that's what you're stuck with. So it's a big risk to try to innovate these days. And it's kind of like, what do you do? So we're trying to innovate, and I think we're making the right decision. But ask me after Kansas, and we'll find out.
Sounds good. I'm going to open it up to questions. I'll kick it off to Bob.
Yeah, Ben, you recently came off a 5-race and 5-week stretch. Now you have another 5-race and 5-week stretch. What do you learn about the grind from the previous stretch that you hope to implement, or what lessons do you feel like maybe you guys have learned as an organization, just going racing back to back to back to back to back?
Yeah. Well, every year presents a new set of challenges, unfortunately. I wish the challenges would stay the same because once you conquer them, it would be really nice to just kind of implement that strategy and just, no hill for a climber at that point. But it's not the case. Every year is different. We have our own set of challenges and adversity that faces every year at the race shop with production or with my individual crew that I'm now with that I haven't had before. But it's weird. It feels like we're in the middle of race season. I mean, it's literally just now May, and it feels like it should be July, the way that we've got so many races crammed into so early on the schedule. You really have to be on your game. And obviously with us joining Ford Performance this year, we had a lot more work on the front side of the schedule than most teams. And we also had a lot more races on the front side of the schedule. So we all very aware at the race shop right now that this is as hard as it's going to get. And once we get past this next 5-race stretch, things are going to slow down. It's going to get easier. Production as far as trucks should be getting caught up. But right now, the last 5 races, there was a big emphasis on making sure we don't get in any wrecks. I don't make any mistakes as a driver, not tearing up the right side of the truck for an unnecessary move, or trying to get an extra 10% out of a truck for 5th place. That doesn't work. And these are all things that I've worked on over the years myself, trying to be disciplined and look at the big picture while you're racing. But in situations like this with the schedule, it's more important than ever. And that's those same lessons from the last 5 are going to apply for the next 5 for sure.
Thank you.
Marty, you're up.
Thanks, Brendan. Ben, before I get to my questions, I got to ask you for the heck of it with your backdrop. You got 3 Wallies in the background. Are you hanging something for us that we don't know of yet?
Yeah, I've got a secret history as a race car driver in different disciplines. No, I'm actually in the boss's office here. He's got a very scenic office. I wish I could show you guys the rest of it. He's got some really cool photos from different series he's been involved in over the years. But I thought it looked like a cool backdrop. So what the heck? I want to share it.
Looks decent. I like it.
Yeah.
But I'll get to my questions here. My first one about Kansas this weekend. Just what's this place like as a whole?
That's funny. It's a moving target. So Kansas, when I first went there, was 2016. That was my first race, and the asphalt was newer. It was like black asphalt, like it was what you picture asphalt to be, and it wasn't bumpy. There was a lot of grip on the bottom, very high speed racetrack, a lot of on throttle time, and it just reminded me like being there in a truck. I was like, man, it feels like we're IndyCar racing. Like this is really fast paced. And now over the years, it's had those harsh Midwest winters, which I think age a racetrack way differently than other localities do. Like it's been very interesting to watch the progression over the years. Now it's developed bumps, it's grayed out, and you're moving around a lot. Like before it was on the bottom, now it's up top by the wall, and everybody is going to go to the wall. It's just a matter of when that happens. The bottom will be fast for a few laps, but it's a cheese grater now on the bottom. It'll wear your tires out. We have significant fall off compared to other 1.5 mile racetracks and to Kansas itself in the past. So it's a totally different track. It's been a moving target year over year. And I think that's good. I mean, I like to see racetracks change and be dynamic. And especially as they get older, the fall off increases. And that's a really fun challenge for drivers.
And then following up on Bob's question, looking at that stretch coming up, North Wilkesboro on the calendar, just how excited are you to be going there? And if you have any memories of that track you like to share? I know you were born after the closure, but I'm curious if you had any memories during like the 2011 span when it was open or so.
Yeah, that is the extremely disappointing part. I have 0 memories of it. I wish I had like some experience to fall back on. I don't actually even have anything set up to run the late model race prior to our truck race. So I feel disadvantaged in a way. I know there's a lot of guys that'll be in my field that have run there in late models. So they've done something in North Wilkesboro. So they have memories. I have nothing. I don't know how to get to the track. I don't know what the track looks like. I mean, apart from pictures and videos, but physically in person, I don't know what that looks like. And I don't know where the bumps are located. I don't know what the proper line is. That's all stuff that I'm going to start learning here within the next week, really, and trying to do simulation and trying to watch footage. But I've got no personal experience, which is disappointing, concerning, really.
All right, man. Appreciate the time. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
I'm curious, Ben, on just you placed 3rd in Vegas. Is there any crossover? I know each track has its own different challenges, right? Is there anything you can take from a strong run at Vegas, that 1.5 miles, and apply it to here, Kansas?
Yeah, I think so with the setup in general. But it is funny. Kansas and Vegas have both been dynamic racetracks. They've both changed a lot over the years, and they both change a lot with weather and rubber and temperature. So there are similarities in that regard. But I think mainly the biggest thing is you're just taking kind of your base package and then you tweak it for each track, right? And then as you can grow and develop and implement new innovations, that evolves, and it's kind of a moving dynamic thing that you're living with throughout the season. So we're going to take a very similar package to what we had at Vegas, but with some innovations. And I'm anxious just to see how they work. Right, we've worked pretty hard on what we think is right. But with the limited practice these days, it's just very hard to do it correctly. And then to, not everything is going to be perfect off the hauler, but trying to stick with different innovations that you're bringing to your setup, that can be tough. You just don't have enough time these days to really work on it.
Then, yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I remember I came to your hauler after the Dakota race, and after that drive shaft, that was a big bummer. But I remember you saying that your crew chief Jared Prince, he was hopeful. He was reassured by the level of speed you were able to carry on that track. Just talk about sort of the relationship and how it's grown with your crew chief. And I mean, if you guys had to go back to the drawing board to find a little bit more because you feel like you should be at the top of the rankings, like just where's sort of that relationship at right now, and where does it need to be?
Yeah, relationship's good. What I really like about Jared is that he's kind of a round table guy. Like, he likes to sit down and talk to myself, the engineers. He talks to everybody to get their opinion and their advice. And ultimately, he's crew chief and he's going to act on what his judgment is. But he's very open to others and doesn't operate off of an ego. And the sport is full of egos. So he's fun to work with for that reason, and very friendly. And it makes it easy for a driver like me who I've known him for a while, but we never really worked together. We never gone to the track together. We never really operated on any sort of level that would bring, communication to what it needs to be. So yeah, he's been fun. It's been easy to get into a rhythm with him for that reason. I'm trying to be as open as possible to things that he wants to do, because ultimately some of the stuff that I like in the past and expect out of a race truck, he does different. And that's just been the story with everybody I've ever worked with. I've been with quite a few different crew chiefs now in my time at ThorSport. So it's always, it seems like every 2 years I get a new one. And so I'm in my first year with J-Rod, and hopefully I can keep him for a while. He's been very good, very fast on the 1.5 miles, very smart with trimming trucks out and making different, different things about a setup fast and maximizing them. So I guess the frame of mind right now is really, hey, we've had a third place truck. Here's some fruit that's maybe lower hanging that we think we can hit on and get some speed. We think risk versus reward, we can unload with it and it's going to be okay. We're fine with taking the risk because we think it's skewed in our favor, but it's always an opportunity for it to backfire on us. And Kansas will kind of be that telltale. But historically in the past, I've ran some of these changes and the combination of them didn't work well for me. So I'm anxious to see how it works. He's smart, and they've done a lot of homework to try to make this stuff happen.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else, Marty? Your hands up. I just want to make sure if you had any follow-ups, we could squeeze it in.
I'm good for now. Thanks, Ben.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think we're about set here, Ben. Appreciate your time, and good luck this weekend at Kansas. So
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
and then I think we're gonna stay on for Ty here at 10:15. So we'll let that transition go, and then we'll welcome him onto the call. Hey, what's going on, Ty?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all
Good.
right. I think we're just going to dive right into it. So we have Ty Majeski. He joins us now. He's driver of the number 98 Road Ranger Ford F-150, and notably our Craftsman Truck points leader. That sound pretty good, right, Ty?
Yeah, certainly. It's been a really good start to the season. Been super consistent. I think we've finished like 2nd through 6th. So just missing that win so far.
All right. I'm going to open up to questions and keep this flowing. Bob, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, Ty, earlier this year, you had a stretch of 5 races in 5 weeks. Now you had a couple of weeks not racing, now another stretch of 5 races in 5 weeks. I'm curious if you learned anything just doing kind of a long 5-week stretch earlier this year that you can apply to this 5-week stretch.
Well, I think the biggest thing with the first 5-week stretch is it required our race teams to build our whole fleet of trucks within that 5-week stretch. So we had an intermediate, a road course, a sort of a hybrid intermediate in Atlanta. Then you had a short track truck and a dirt truck. So that first 5-week stretch was incredibly hard on the teams. And I think from my team's standpoint, it was good to get a couple weeks off. Let the guys get home to their families, spend some time a little bit, and just sort of reset. Now that most of our trucks are built and are in pretty good shape, we can now start recycling some of these trucks and actually running them again instead of just trying to build them for the first time this season. So this 5-week stretch won't be quite as grueling as the first stretch. But we certainly, we were able to, like I mentioned, go to each different type of racetrack so far, build up a notebook and hopefully apply some of those things that we learned in the first 5 race stretch into this one. This is, I feel like probably the best 5 tracks that, or some of the 5 tracks that we have on our schedule that we have circled. They're really good races for us, good tracks for us. So we're excited to get going for it.
And are you doing are you doing a cars or ASA race at North Wilkesboro?
I am, yes.
So are you doing that for fun, or do you feel like it's important to get on the track before racing the truck there?
Yeah, I think definitely both. I'm going to try and pursue the ASA Stars National Tour for points. So that'll be the 3rd race in that series. But regardless of whether I was running that for points, Wilkesboro was a race that I wanted to do, as you mentioned, just to get some seat time for the truck race. I haven't been there before. Not too many people have, so to have that opportunity to go there before the truck race, at least know the racetrack and some of the characteristics and how it progresses and transitions from day to night that knowledge will be valuable come Saturday for the truck race.
Thank you.
Marty, you're up.
Thanks, Brendan. Ty, following up on that, does racing in the late model before you take to the truck, does that really help give you a better understanding for what the tire fall off is going to be like, or is it just 2 completely different tires?
Yeah, definitely completely different tires, but I think you get a general idea of how it's going to trend, right? I think we're going to see tire fall off, probably something similar to Richmond, maybe even a little bit more. So I can kind of cross reference that with some of the tracks that I've, been to in a late model and kind of compare them. They are totally different animals, but, I'll have a general idea of how really abrasive the track is when I do run my late model. So hard to correlate it, just going to have to go off of past experiences and kind of cross reference it to sort of come up with an idea of what we're going to have for the truck race on Saturday.
So last year at Kansas, you had a 2nd and an 8th. What did you learn from both of those races that you can move forward to try and get that win at Kansas?
Yeah, I think we over-adjusted a little bit. I think the biggest thing for my team was understanding the differences in the racetrack from the spring to the fall. I feel like what we, sort of fought in the fall was not what we fought in the spring. I thought we were pretty good, just a little bit on the free side in the spring. Then we came back in the fall a bit tighter to compensate for that. And I just think the way the weather is and the rubber having been laid down throughout the season with multiple races, we didn't fight that in the fall last year. So that's why we didn't probably run quite as good. So just every time we go to the racetrack, we're learning. I've been working with Joe now for almost a year and a half, and we're starting to not starting. We're going to all these places twice now. So we actually have a notebook to go off of, whereas last year we were building that notebook. So we're able to go back and look at the places where we feel like we can get better. And I feel like Kansas is a place where we're capable of getting better, coming back the second time through having a notebook.
And then finally, obviously, you've been having your best seasons in Craftsman Truck competition with ThorSport Racing. What have you enjoyed most about working with them?
Well, just, and I've said this before, the culture up here at ThorSport, I feel like is different than I'll say some of the corporate NASCAR teams in Charlotte, so to speak. I feel like if you're working at ThorSport, it's because you want to be here and you're a racer. And I feel like in some instances, people, are on race teams in Charlotte because it's a job. And I feel like up here, you're here because you actually want to be here and you want to go to the racetrack and race, and not just do it for a job. So I think that goes a long ways into building the culture here. And, I feel like I'm a little bit more of sort of an old school racer and, working with the guys, being at the shop, and being a strong part of, how the truck goes to the racetrack. So just to, have that sort of mentality up here at ThorSport just fits me well. And we have fun doing it. Obviously, Joe and I hit it off right off the bat, both being from Wisconsin, being late model guys. We have a lot in common, and we bonded at a really rapid pace. And I felt like the results showed it last year.
Appreciate your time, Ty. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm definitely curious, Ty. Now being at the top of the standings, is there any added pressure? Do you feel like you got a target on your back? How are you kind of taking that top spot and using it towards the next races?
Yeah, I mean, being the points leader is nice. It's definitely rewards. I feel like consistency throughout the year. One goal that we had coming into this season was really to get more playoff points. Last year, I think we went into the playoffs with 2 playoff points. We won 2 stages throughout the year. So I think the goal for me was to, try and knock off a couple wins early and a few stage wins and try and build up that buffer for hopefully when we do make the playoffs. So haven't been able to do that yet. The points lead is nice, but we really want to focus on winning some of these races and winning some stages, just to make our playoff run and our path a little bit easier to Phoenix.
Awesome. And yeah, consistency's key. Definitely 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and 7 races is it's quite the year so far. I'm wondering on sort of game planning for Kansas. Do you take that second place from last spring to this year? And I mean, even go as far as this year with the current car, Joe, and the team around you, a mile and a half like Vegas. Do you take anything away from those other mile and a halves and apply it to Kansas?
Yeah, so we took really an experimental setup to Kansas last year in the spring. Felt like we hit on something, and then we brought it back to Kansas again with some small changes. Didn't really like the direction we went. And going to Homestead, we were, sort of in the mindset, okay, if we were to go back to Kansas for a third time, what would we do to the setup? And that's what we took to Homestead, and we won with it. And it was probably one of the best trucks that I've ever had. So we're going to take that same truck, that same setup, back to Kansas here from Homestead this spring. So that's just kind of the mentality where we're at, from a package perspective, and sort of the racetracks that we're using to correlate. I feel like Vegas is more so like a Charlotte type racetrack. And I feel like Kansas and Homestead, you can get a little bit more aggressive with how smooth they are. So we sort of have 2 different intermediate packages that we play with, and So we're gonna go with something similar to what we had at Homestead last year.
Awesome. Thank you. Think anything else? I think we'll give you a little bit of time back, Ty. I appreciate you for hopping on, and best of luck this weekend.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you.